Scotland. You are invited to a country where clouds carve shadows across rolling moors and mountains lift their heads to meet the sea. Scotland is a land stitched together by wildness, expansive, restless, and enduring. Here you'll find snow-streaked peaks cresting above heathered valleys. Rivers cut deep through green glens, while lochs mirror the sky in shades of silver and blue. It is a place of endless primal beauty, from the smooth white sands and turquoise surf of Luskentyre to the black cliffs of Skye's Quiraing, where stone needles pierce slow-moving mist and wildflowers paint the short summer gold and pink. Islands scatter in every direction, Orkney and Shetland, the wind-bent Outer Hebrides, each anchored by rugged shores, ancient standing stones, and meadows alive with the call of seabirds. Pines stand tall in the cairngorms, sheltering deer and wildcats. Waterfalls crash through ravines where salmon return in the autumn from the cold waters of the North Atlantic to spawn in their ancestral home rivers. Out on Mull and Slay, white-tailed sea eagles circle, and villages blink bright against wide blue bays, a testament to the conservation success story they tell. And yet, for all the grandeur, it's the people you remember. In Scotland, kindness and warmth match the storied wildness of the land and its people. Never intrusive, you will always get a friendly nod from a shopkeeper or directions offered in a Highland village before you've even asked. Hospitality here is quick and genuine. The native Gaelic language, ancient yet living, cherished in the Highlands and Islands, now enjoys renewed pride and official status across the nation, woven into signs, stories, and everyday welcomes. This is Scotland, untamed yet inviting. A land rich in natural wonder, shaped by time, held together by the warmth and sturdy perseverance of its people. Here, every path and island, every smile and song, is an open invitation to linger, listen, and let the wild heart of the land speak directly to your own. Eilean Donan Castle. In the windswept Highlands, where three great sea lochs meet, Duich, Long, and Alsh, Eilean Donan Castle rises on its tidal island, a fortress that has held its ground since the 13th century. Approaching along the causeway, the castle stands as Scotland distilled: stone, water, sky, and stubborn endurance. The walls, thick and gray with lichen, have seen invaders come and go, from Norse raiders to Jacobite rebels. It was here, in 1719, that a small force stood against the king's men, the final volley tearing the castle apart. For nearly 200 years, the ruins weathered rain and salt wind until, in the early 1900s, it was rebuilt with a reverence for what had stood before. Arriving in the morning, you might see the island wreathed in fog, the lochs as still as glass, the bulk of the castle reflected in near-perfect symmetry. The only sound, the call of a heron, or the faint hush of water beneath the bridge. Step onto the causeway and cross over the tides and the centuries. Inside, the castle is cool and dim. The echoes of footsteps through old halls mingle with a sense of history, both grand and intimate. Here are displays of clan swords, battered shields, and the heavy oak of tables that have hosted both feasts and war councils. Outside, the island is ringed with heather and grass, and at the shore, you may see otters slipping from the rocks. On bright days, the surrounding mountains, snow-dusted in early spring, deep green by midsummer, form a backdrop as cinematic as any story told here. Eilean Donan Castle is the setting for countless Scottish celebrations, weddings, and gatherings. Its dramatic lines are a favorite for filmmakers and artists worldwide. At dusk, the castle is floodlit and glows gold against the darkening sky, its reflection trembling in the loch. You might linger as the air cools and low clouds curl along the water's surface. Nearby you'll find village inns serving warming bowls of cullen skink chowder and fresh-caught salmon, plates as vivid as the landscape outside. The castle has earned its place in memory and image, imposing in a storm, tranquil in the summer sun, ever patient as the world moves past its ancient stones. Stand on the shore as evening falls and see the castle as it stood hundreds of years ago, and truly feel one with this living monument of Scottish history. The Old Man of Storr, Isle of Skye. Rising from the rocky crag of the Trossachs Peninsula, the Old Man of Storr is a skeletal finger of ancient basalt and is Skye's most recognizable sentinel. Sculpted by landslide and time, this stone pillar has watched the clouds pass for millennia. Local legend claims the shape is what remains of a fallen giant, his hand reaching up even in slumber, while geologists will tell you it is the product of long-vanished glaciers, erosion, and patience. Your journey to the Storr begins in woodland, but soon the path opens onto heather-covered slopes, wind-rippled grass, and the scent of rain on peat. The sky here is a living thing, changing by the hour. Each step you see the old man looming larger, rising from the hillside, the guardian of Skye's wild north. At dawn, the first light hits the spire and the land glows. Sheep ruminate over the lower reaches, marking out their own slow paths among the gorse and rock. If the wind is gentle, you might hear a raven, or, with luck, catch the silent tilt of a golden eagle's wings overhead. Pause here and look east, where the coast runs pale against the blue of the sea, or west towards the other jagged pinnacles of the Quiraing. The view is immense and feels unchanged from 1,000 years ago. In every season, it holds something worth seeking. Late spring means slopes scattered with wildflowers and the possibility of otters hunting in hidden pools along the coast below. Autumn brings bracken gold, with clouds racing in low from the Atlantic. Fog shrouds everything in silence, while bright summer sun brings the rocks into sharp relief against the blue. Down the road, in the village of Portree, cafes serve thick-cut Skye salmon on fresh bread and bowls of seafood chowder, all ready for those who come down off the hill. The Old Man of Storr stands simply, unchanged as the world trembles with movement around it. To be here is to understand what draws so many to Skye again and again, a promise that quiet, wild places will always remain for those willing to climb a little and look up. Calton Hill, Edinburgh. At the east end of Edinburgh's famous Princes Street, Calton Hill rises above the city, crowned with monuments and some of the most sweeping views in Scotland. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Edinburgh sought to cast itself as the Athens of the North. It was here the city's ambitions took physical shape. The unfinished national monument, begun in the 1820s, modeled on the Parthenon, but left incomplete when funding ran out. It is now a popular photo opportunity. An easy walk brings you to the top, where the city opens up in all directions. On one side, Edinburgh Castle sits on its volcanic rock. Ahead, the spires and domes of the old and new towns. To the north, the Firth of Forth glitters between sea-misted hills. Stand by the Dugald Stewart Monument at sunset, and you'll see rooftops flushing copper and gold, shadows stretching along Royal Mile, and the city's stories pulse in the shifting light. Calton Hill is where locals and travelers alike come to mark the big moments. Fire festivals like Beltane light up the hill each spring, with dancers, drummers, and bonfires illuminating a crowd dressed in wild costumes. These are scenes captured again and again in vivid images, with city lights bright below and flames leaping into the night. Peer down toward Leith, and you'll see the urban fabric stretching towards the docks and ships. Turn back, and medieval closes narrow into secrets between stone. Calton Hill is an inspiring gathering place, a timeless vantage from which generations have watched the city change and remain the same. Ponder here at day's end and join a long line of dreamers. Light shifts, bells toll, and for a few quiet moments, Edinburgh seems both infinite and entirely yours. The Quiraing, Isle of Skye. Travel north along the Trotternish Peninsula on the Isle of Skye, and you'll reach the Quiraing, a landscape shaped by ancient landslides, rising in jagged outcrops and deep green folds under brooding skies. The Quiraing looks less like a place that was built, and more like a place that simply grew wild with the Earth's own intention. Its most dramatic scenery, the table, the needle, the prison, was carved into legend by centuries of relentless wind, rain, and geological defiance. Most people begin at the base, setting out on a looping path that traces the edge of puzzling ridgelines. The air is brisk even in summer, scented with heather and the faint brine of distant sea. Stand at one of the outcrops, and as if you're adrift, high above the world. In spring, lambs perch improbably on the steepest slopes, while in autumn, the whole scene catches fire with rusty bracken. The table, a perfectly flat and grass-covered platform in the Quiraing, rises as a secret plateau of vivid green, encircled by soaring ramparts. Centuries ago, locals reportedly hid cattle among these labyrinthine gullies to protect them from raiding parties. Tales of fairy folk crossing the table beneath the full moon, or shadows moving where none should be, have prevailed for hundreds of years. At the Quiraing, weather changes here in moments. A squall sweeps in, and you're wet through. A minute later, rainbows arch over the valley, framing the hilltops in color. This is a favorite location for walkers, but also a place for peace and quiet. Find a seat among the rocks, pull out a flask of tea or a wedge of local Skye cheese, and let the scene shift around you. On a clear day, you can see all the way to the mountains of Wester Ross, the sea shimmering on the horizon. Golden eagles fly here, their shadows gliding silently over the moor below. Wildflowers, milkwort, butterwort, and the delicate pink thrift dot the grass in early summer, bright against the green. Down the coast, small villages tuck themselves against the shore, offering shelter and stories after a day on the ridge. Stop for a slice of home-baked shortbread or a bowl of Cullen skink, smoky and warming after a walk in the wind. The Quiraing, ancient, unpredictable, and endlessly photogenic. An awe-inspiring place for any traveler willing to wander a little further and look a little longer. Loch Ness. In the Great Glen of Scotland, stretching over 23 miles between Inverness and Fort Augustus, lies Loch Ness, a name that conjures both tranquil beauty and persistent legend. This deep, dark freshwater lake is a ribbon of water framed by steep, tree-lined hills and crowned by weather that seems to change every quarter hour. Its origins are ancient. Loch Ness was carved during the last ice age, and today it holds more water than all the lakes in England and Wales combined. Find a quiet spot along the shore, maybe by the ruins of Edinburgh Castle, built in the 13th century to guard these waters, and now a crumbling perch for grand vistas and hopeful glances toward the depths. Early in the morning, the loch often sits motionless, a pewter mirror reflecting forest and stone, with only the distant croak of a raven or the short call of a curlew. The air carries a hint of pine and, in late spring, bursts with the scent of yellow gorse flowers. On calm days, you may spot rowing boats cutting silent tracks through the mist, or, more rarely, the leap of salmon chased by an eager otter. Trout and pike thrive in these cold waters, while the wooded banks hide red deer, foxes, and, according to local folklore, the most famous lake dweller of all, Nessie. Of course, no tale of Loch Ness is complete without the legend of Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. From St. Columba's first supposed sighting in the 6th century to contemporary sonar sweeps and blurry photographs, Nessie endures as a symbol of mystery and hope. Stores in the villages up and down the loch sell plush monsters, while boat tours invite visitors to scan the ripples and wonder what might lie below. Monster or not, the sense of potential beneath the surface is real and infectious. Beyond the creature, Loch Ness is a center of Highland life, and a favorite stop for festivals celebrating Scottish music and food, drawing crowds who gather by the shore for summer Cailleads and local fare like venison stew, oatcakes, and smoked trout. Evidence of history is everywhere: forts, standing stones, the marks of battles long past. Photographers are drawn as much to the mood, the dramatic skies, the sudden shafts of light, the interplay of cloud and water, as to the fabled monster. If you visit as evening draws in, the loch turns slate blue and the hills wrap themselves in cloud. Listen closely to the sound of water moving against stone, the hush of wind, and maybe, if you're very still, the stirring of prehistoric flippers just beyond the water's edge. Glen Coe. In the heart of the Highlands lies Glen Coe, a valley carved by glaciers nearly 12,000 years ago and revered today for both its severe beauty and its tragic past. Travel the narrow road as it winds between looming mountains, the Three Sisters rising to your left, Ainach Egach's sheer ridge to the right. A simple cluster of white cottages against the green. The village of Glen Coe is a gateway to exploring a region shaped by eons and etched by clan memory. In the late 17th century, during the bitter winter of 1692, the Glen was host to the infamous massacre of Glen Coe. Memorials to this chilling act of political violence stand in the valley, subtle but ever-present reminders. Yet today, Glen Coe draws visitors for peace as much as drama. Early mornings bring a cool hush, low mist curled up against the crags, and the gentle patter of rain on moss and rock. In spring, the lower slopes are woven with purple heather and wild bluebells. In summer, the sun breaks through to reveal great sweeps of emerald grass and the play of light on running water. The River Coe tumbles across boulders, silver bright, occasionally sheltering salmon leaping upstream. Though storms are common, clouds can cloak the mountains in minutes, the Glen is never less than vivid, from the stark white of winter snowdrops to the autumn blaze of rowan berries. Glen Coe is also a magnet for lovers of Scottish culture. In nearby towns, you're likely to find hearty meals of haggis, neeps, and tatties. Many worldwide will recognize Glen Coe from film and television. It has been backdrop for epics, from Highlander to Harry Potter, its wildness doubling for wizards' outposts and legendary battles alike. The beautiful Glen Coe offers quiet to those willing to take it. A bench by the river, a ridge with wind in your face, an hour unbothered at the mouth of the glen, watching the clouds climb the shoulders of the mountains. Here, Scotland feels at its most Scottish and entirely unforgettable. The fairy pools, Isle of Skye. At the foot of the Black Quillan Mountains, where the land folds into itself and water gathers from secret slopes, the fairy pools flow. A series of crystal-clear turquoise pools strung together by waterfalls and rocky ledges. The setting feels deliberately hidden, a secret only revealed to those willing to leave the main road and walk a while along the winding path where the sound of water grows louder with every step. Though the pools themselves are a natural wonder, they sit inside a landscape sculpted by myth. Legend has it that the waters are home to the Sidhe, the fairy folk of old Celtic tradition, who visit at dusk or in misty rain. The first glimpse of the water is startling. It's uncommonly clear, impossibly blue on a bright day, with each pool deep enough to see the pebbles shimmering beneath the current. On windless mornings, the water is a mirror perfectly holding the Quillan's shadow. Locals and visitors alike slip into the pools for a bracing swim that leaves the skin tingling for hours. The temperature, much of the year, is cold enough to sharpen all the senses. The landscape around the pools bristles with life. In spring and summer, wildflowers rim the banks, and dragonflies skip over the shallows. Birds call from the tops of rowan and birch, and, if you're lucky, an otter may streak through the water, gone before you can point or snap a photograph. The fairy pools are as much about sound as sight. The music of water falling over rock, the rustle of wind through long grass, the distant hum of bees. When the rain comes, and it comes quickly and often, the pools take on a new mood, swirling silver and gray, reflecting clouds and making everything more luminous. Local guides often share tales as old as Skye's stones. There are stories that warriors once cleansed their swords in these waters, or that hidden treasure sits somewhere beneath the deepest pool, glimpsed only at twilight. For the modern traveler, village cafes down the road sell Skye seafood or crumbly scones, warm and just out of the oven. Whatever brings you here, be it the beautiful locale or the chance to feel a little magic, the fairy pools will abide. Savor the moment and let these waters embed themselves in your memories forevermore. Stirling Castle. Rising above the River Forth from an ancient volcanic crag, Stirling Castle is one of Scotland's grandest and most significant strongholds, a place where centuries of the nation's story converged. Foundations date back to at least the 12th century, but most of the walls and halls standing today took shape in the 15th and 16th centuries. Stirling was the seat of kings and queens, the backdrop for sieges, celebrations, and betrayals that altered the course of Scottish history. Enter the grounds and you step into an entire era. The royal palace, richly decorated with intricate carvings and painted ceilings, feels made for grand processions. Walk through the great hall and stand between its stone walls where feasts were thrown and the chamber rang with the sounds of laughter and the clang of goblets. Outside, climbing the ramparts affords one sweeping view over the battlefield of Bannockburn. This is where Robert the Bruce famously led Scotland to victory against the English in 1314. The castle endured siege after siege. Edward I battered the gates in the Wars of Independence. Later, Mary, Queen of Scots, spent her childhood among the courtyards and gardens. Wander the outer walls, and you'll see why this ground was so fiercely fought over. On one side, the Ochil Hills roll away, gentle in sunlight. Below, the river loops through patchwork fields, its banks thick with gorse and wild grasses in spring. Jackdaws nest in the old towers, their cries adding to the air of watchful suspense. The outer gardens, recreated from period sketches, are filled with medicinal herbs, climbing roses, and the flutter of butterflies in summer. Stirling Castle is alive with culture year-round. During the annual Stirling Highland Games, the air is alight with the skirl of bagpipes and the pound of drums. The city itself swells with dance, sport, and stalls filled to the brim with local fare. Festivals illuminate the courtyards with light displays, reenactments, and music. Back inside, costumed guides reenact scenes from royal days, inviting guests to join in dances or taste honeyed oat cakes. Evenings in Stirling have their own magic. As light fades, the walls take on a burnished glow, and the city below begins to twinkle, bridging past and present. Come for the history, for the drama, or for the sheer panoramic beauty, Stirling Castle offers you the chance to stand at a literal and figurative high point, where whispers from history come to life. Luskentyre Beach, Isle of Harris. On the west coast of the Isle of Harris in the Outer Hebrides, Luskentyre Beach stretches improbably bright and broad, a place where Scotland wears colors from another world. White sand, fine as flour, sweeps for miles, bordered by rolling dunes and banks of marram grass that ripple in the constant wind. Beyond the sand, the water flashes turquoise to sapphire, colors that wouldn't be out of place in the Caribbean, yet here they glow even beneath gray skies. This is a landscape of big weather and big quiet. Arrive early, and the tide may be out, revealing wide flats streaked with pools and the looping prints of oyster catchers and sandpipers. The air is salty and soft, tinged with the scent of seaweed and the fleeting sweetness of wildflowers that blanket the Hebrides in color during late spring and early summer. Thrift, gentian, and wild orchid are present among the sand and grass, drawing bees and butterflies in their wake. Luskentyre is a favorite for ramblers and cyclists, kite surfers and dreamers. Stand by the water and feel the wind press against your back, the surf carrying the distant voices of seals that haul out onto skerries at low tide. On blustery days, clouds race across the sky, sunlight flickering on turquoise shallows and darkening suddenly as rain sweeps in. Rainbows here seem more vivid, impossibly huge, connecting sea to sky in wide, arching bridges. Even in summer, you might find yourself nearly alone, save for a family building wind-buffeted sandcastles or a walker trudging the sweep of the curve, bundled against the chill. The village of Luskentyre itself is just a clutch of houses tucked behind dunes, but nearby Tarbert offers warmth in the form of cozy tea rooms. Local galleries display prints and weavings inspired by the shifting colors and moods of the sea. In late evening, as the sun slips toward the far Atlantic, the sand begins to cool. The last light stretches gold across the bay, and the wind carries the faint clang of a sheep bell or the low hum of the ferry settling at port. Luskentyre Beach is the sort of place that makes you cherish beauty that's both wild and startlingly pure, its spirit still in your heart long after your footprints have vanished with the tide. The Royal Mile, Edinburgh. Running like a spine through the old town of Edinburgh, the Royal Mile stretches for just over a mile, connecting the imposing gates of Edinburgh Castle to the regal doors of Holyrood Palace. Its cobbled surface is worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, kings, queens, poets, and, today, visitors from every corner of the world. The street as it appears now took shape from the 16th to 18th centuries, though its origins run far deeper. Legends of Mary, Queen of Scots, and whispers of medieval plots linger in the closes and stairways branching off the mile. The air here buzzes with energy. By day, street performers strum guitars, jugglers and musicians drawing crowds at every open space. You can find nearly any visual you wish. Bagpipers piping outside St. Giles's Cathedral, buskers painted silver in the shadow of 17th century stone, crowds clustered beneath old black lampposts. Vaulted undercrofts hint at Edinburgh's layered history, some once used for markets, others now hosting candlelit taverns serving haggis, neeps and tatties, or golden brown Scotch pies. The scent of malt whiskey drifts from open bottle shop doors, and windows display tartans from every clan. Occasional rain brings out the depth in the old city walls, and if dusk finds you here, the golden spill of light from pubs and windows might tempt you off the main way into one of the city's famous closes. Narrow, twisting alleys. From the tolling of bells at St. Giles to the distant boom of the 1 o'clock gun fired from the castle ramparts, the Royal Mile is both a journey and a hub, a place where Scotland's past walks beside the present, every step an invitation to look again. Get swept up in the music, search for the tastiest of Scottish treats, or simply standing still as the city slides past. The Royal Mile promises memories as long as you care to carry them. Trossachs and Loch. If the Highlands have a heart, it beats in the Trossachs, an expanse of wooded hills, shimmering lochs, and gentle peaks tucked between Stirling and the Greater Wilds to the north. In the 1800s, this region became Scotland's first official scenic playground, its beauty canonized by writers and artists. Among them, Sir Walter Scott, whose famed poem, The Lady of the Lake, made Loch Katrine's waters synonymous with romance and heroism. At Loch Katrine, the air is fresh and in spring, scented with wild garlic. In autumn, it smells of wood smoke and moss. The loch stretches west, ringed by woodlands that change mood with the season. New leaves cast a delicate haze in April. By October, everything is gold, ochre, and red. Small white boats ply the water, ferries, and old steamers tracing languid lines from shore to shore, their journey reflected in perfect ripples. A path winds along the bank for cyclists and ramblers alike. Wildflowers, bell heather, bluebells, foxgloves cluster by the trailside. Birds flit in and out of the trees, chaffinches, wrens, and, if you're lucky, an osprey fishing near the reed beds. Locals have long settled villages, Aberfoyle and Callander. In summer, festival tents rise along the water, offering music, artisan bread, smoked trout, and craft beers. Every window becomes a frame for Loch and Hill, with the ever-changing weather adding movement and drama. The Trossachs region, now a national park, holds a quieter energy than the far north. On Loch Katrine at first light, the surface is so still that clouds seem to rest upon it. In the Trossachs, every visit brings travelers a different Scotland, and Loch Katrine waits, always dressed in brand new colors, ready for adventure. Dunnottar Castle. Perched on a headland above the crashing North Sea, Dunnottar Castle is drama unleashed. Founded likely in the 14th century, though legend plumbs its stones back to the Pictish era, the ruins today are all wind and weather. Here, high walls run to the very brink of cliffs. Ruined towers and halls stand battered but somehow intact, surrounded by sweeping turf and the endless sound of surf below. From a distance, the whole promontory seems impossible. Castles aren't meant to cling this way to sheer rock, yet here it persists. History lives here, among stones. Dunnottar was the hideout for the Scottish crown jewels during the 17th century wars with England. Stories tell of secret passages and nighttime escapes, smuggling king and regalia from beneath besiegers' noses. To approach, you follow a twisting path, descending, then climbing again, with the fortress always in view. When the sun shines, the grass and harebells blaze against the stone, waves catching the light in shifting stripes of blue and green. Dunnottar is a favorite for those who love views of the untamed and stories that are larger than life. When evening falls and the silhouette stands black against the last gold, you can feel, for a moment, what it was to see Scotland as unyielding fortress and wild threshold, unchanged and unmatched. The Cairngorms National Park. In the heart of Scotland, the Cairngorms National Park stretches wide, a massive expanse of mountains, forests, lochs, and wild moorland that feels at once boundless and intricately detailed. Established as a national park only in the 21st century, its real story began millions of years earlier, scrawled by glaciers and frost, shaped by the relentless wind. Coming here, you trade the drama of vertical cliffs for the quiet majesty of plateaus. A land clad in purple heather drifts, ancient pine woods and granite peaks capped in snow late into spring. The villages of Aviemore, Ballater, and Braemar mark the gateway to this region. But the heart of the Cairngorms beats strongest where the paths fade and everything feels untouched. In spring and summer, wildflowers swarm the meadows beside cool lochs, while trout leap through mirrored water and red squirrels chase high among the branches of Caledonian pine. In winter, the park transforms. Skiers carve pale tracks on Cairngorm Mountain, and the forests stand hushed, their branches sparkling with frost. With over a quarter of Britain's threatened species calling the Cairngorms home, the park is a living portrait of Scottish wildlife. Here, you might spot osprey deftly fishing in Loch Garten, or see herds of red deer standing silent against the sunrise. The patient visitor could glimpse the rare Scottish wildcat crossing a forest path, or hear the capercailzie's haunting call before dawn. Higher up, mountain hares turn white as the snow, perfectly camouflaged against winter's blanketing perfection. Culturally, the Cairngorms are infused with local traditions. Highland games in the summer fill the air with music, dance, and the crack of hammers on cabbers. In Aviemore, outdoor adventurers gather for hill walking, mountain biking, and the winter snow sports season. In these highlands, weather is always a character. Clouds racing like horses, fierce storms, bright sunlight, and lochs forever changing color as skies reflect and shift. The cairngorms show you, up close, Scotland's wild heart as it beats within the land. Let its endless green and silver places rekindle both your wondrous curiosity and your wanderlust. St. Andrews and West Sands. St. Andrews is famed around the world as the home of golf, a coastal university town where medieval spires, ruins, and beaches converge. The town's roots stretch back to at least the 12th century. The majestic ruins of St. Andrew's Cathedral were once the grandest church in Scotland. The nearby castle, battered by storms and centuries of conflict, hangs above the crashing North Sea, its grassed-out courtyard and tunnels whispering of sieges and secret escapes. But outside the old stone gates, West Sands Beach sweeps for nearly 2 miles, a sea of sand ridged by lazy, grassy dunes. There's a cinematic quality to this place. The opening scene of Chariots of Fire, with runners against the surf, made West Sands legendary long before surfing and paddleboarding became weekend rituals. In summer, the beach is dotted with picnics, sandcastles, and often amateur kite surfers braving Scotland's reliably unpredictable wind. The St. Andrews Food and Drink Festival brings laughter and frivolity to the town. Delicious food booths, ceilidh dancing, and fun events like tastings, chef demos, and street parties provide a little something for everyone. Walk the length of West Sands and you'll see the best of old and new Scotland in a single breath. Wild sea, gentle dunes, and ancient towers who keep their silent watch as sentinels between land and sky. On a clear day, you may wonder why anyone would ever leave. And when the Har, a cool coastal fog, rolls in and softens all the edges, you'll understand why this town stays rooted for so many in memory and dreams. The Hermitage, Dunkeld. Deep in the woods near the village of Dunkeld, the paths of the Hermitage lead under soaring Douglas firs, some of the tallest living things in Britain, planted in the 18th century to awe guests of the Duke of Atholl. Their trunks lift the canopy high above, a natural cathedral alive with the sound of breeze and birdsong. Dappled light patterns the moss and bracken underfoot, and the steadily tumbling Braun River runs the walk. Follow the river's course and you'll soon reach Ashan's Hall, a folly built as a retreat for contemplation and poetry. Step inside and face a viewing platform overlooking the Black Lynn Falls. Watch as water roars, white and wild, along dark stone. In autumn, the banks burn gold and amber as beech and oak shed their leaves, and the ground becomes thick with mushrooms and toadstools. The spirit of Ashan, a legendary Gaelic bard, is said to haunt this stretch of river. It's not hard to see why poets were inspired by these lands. Moody fog winding through the trees, the sudden hush after a rainfall, or the fat salmon leaping upriver in their determined season. Dunkeld's seasonal festivals bring music to the local cathedral. The lively Three Peaks outdoor market packed with live music and fun kids' activities, along with food trucks and booths serving up local treats, all in a friendly village atmosphere. Beneath the towering firs of the Hermitage, time drifts easily. Let your worries fall away and be replaced with the scent of moist earth and the gentle pat of your own footsteps. Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond is where the Highlands begin in earnest, a glimmering expanse of freshwater so vast and varied it often feels like an entire landscape in itself. Stretching over 20 miles, the loch cradles more than 30 islands and is ringed by ancient woodlands, rolling hills, and the ever-present shoulders of Ben Lomond. Its believed settlements appeared here as early as the Iron Age, but the loch as we know it became a beloved retreat in the 18th and 19th centuries, immortalized in song and story. Arriving on the bonny banks, you find the water changes character by the hour. Mirror still at sunrise when tendrils of mist coil over the surface, choppy and slate gray beneath a stiff breeze before noon, glittering at dusk as the sun drops behind the western summits. Ferries and pleasure boats set out from Balloch and Luss, weaving between wooded islands, some crowned with the ruins of medieval castles, others home only to wild goats, deer, and colonies of swans. In spring, bluebells and wild garlic perfume the air beneath ancient oaks. In summer, children paddle in the shallows and fishermen try their luck for salmon and trout. Ospreys may be seen soaring above, diving with impossible precision. Loch Lomond's beauty has found a home in the hearts of travelers, songwriters, and painters for centuries. Stand at the edge after a rainstorm and you'll see the landscape doubled. A patchwork of mossy stone walls and green fields mirrored on the still water. So take the high road or the low road. Rest assured you're already in Scotland, and you'll find peace and beauty along the bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Plochton. Tucked along a sheltered bay on Scotland's west coast, Plochton surprises you in every way. A highland village with palm trees, mirror-calm waters, and one of the most photogenic harbors you'll ever find. The village as it stands today began to grow in the early 19th century as a planned fishing settlement. But its story is much older, charted in Norse and Gaelic place names. Arriving over a curve of stone-walled single track, you see whitewashed houses reflected on the glassy water. Beyond, the distant hills of Applecross catch the changing light. Plochton's microclimate, warmed by Gulf Stream currents, means summer brings not just roses and hydrangea, but rows of hardy, wind-shaped palm trees. Fishing boats bob in sheltered inlets, and at low tide, colorful kayaks and rowing boats rest askew among the seaweed. Walk to the headland and you might spot seals lounging on rocks or see oyster catchers fishing the shallows. In summer, the Plochton Regatta fills the harbor with sails, celebration, and friendly competition easily captured in both memory and camera. As the sun sinks low, the bay glows silver and orange. Rowboats and yachts become dark shapes against the sky, and the air is heady with salt and honeysuckle. Plochton makes you want to stay, with a shoreline as wide as your mood and a sense of peacefulness that is well earned. The Kelpies and the Helix Park. Towering beside the Forth and Clyde Canal, the Kelpies are a marvel of art, engineering, and myth. Two colossal horseheads, each 30 meters high, rising from the landscape east of Falkirk. Sculptor Andy Scott created the Kelpies in 2013, giving form to the powerful water spirits of Scottish legend. Shape-shifting horses said to haunt the rivers and lochs, luring travelers to watery fates. Here, they are instead brought into sunlight, celebrating the working horses, Clydesdales, that powered Scotland's industry and agriculture for generations. Walk among their stainless steel plates, gleaming in sun or rain, and you'll be dwarfed by their scale and grace. At dusk, colored lights play across the sculptures, reflecting in the canal and dazzling in photographs. From every angle, the Kelpies seem to shift in mood, sometimes noble and calm, sometimes wild and unsettling, a tribute to the country's folklore and strength. The Helix Park surrounding them is a hub for walkers, cyclists, and families. Tree-lined trails circle the lagoon, where swans paddle and children race toy sailboats. Festivals throughout the summer fill the park with open-air concerts, art markets, and food stalls. Inside one of the Kelpies, guided tours reveal the intricate engineering and the hidden stories behind the design. The Kelpies have quickly become one of Scotland's most iconic modern landmarks, a testament to the country's tradition of legend and labor, made new for the 21st century. Let the crowds fade away and take a moment near the water to admire the sight. As the sun sets, the mammoth sculptures glow against the darkening sky, and so too might your imagination. The Isle of Mull and Tobermory. Off Scotland's west coast lies the Isle of Mull, a place where rugged beauty and vibrant life mingle by the sea. The main town, Tobermory, instantly delights with its waterfront row of vividly painted houses, reds, yellows, blues, and greens dancing in reflection across the harbor. Built in the late 18th century as a fishing port, Tobermory's cheerful palette and crescent bay have made it a symbol of the Hebrides and a magnet for artists, travelers, and sailors. Arriving by ferry, you'll see hills rising behind the town, often shrouded in the sea mist that rolls in from the Sound of Mull. Just beyond Tobermory's busy harbor life, Mull's wild interior unfurls. Mountains, lochs, peat bogs, and ancient woodland. Head south to find castles perched on lonely shores, like Dunnottar Castle, guarding the Sound since the 13th century, or west to the dramatic cliffs of Calgary Bay, where golden sand opens out to the Atlantic and otters hunt in the tumbling surf. Wildlife thrives around Mull. Few Scottish places offer such a guarantee of encounters. White-tailed eagles with their 8-foot wingspans roam the skies. In spring, wildflowers spill across the headlands. Lucky visitors might glimpse seals basking off Ulva, or even spot dolphins and minke whales offshore. Mull's famous Highland cattle move in slow herds, their russet coats and sweeping horns as much a part of local scenery as the heather itself. Here, on Mull and in Tobermory, festivals breathe life throughout the year. The Mull Music Festival's jam-packed pub gigs, Highland Games, and the Wild Mull Rally. Head to Tobermory's West Oversea Book Festival for author talks, book signings, and readings. Get swept up in Céilí dancing, massed performances, and live Scotland's rich folk tradition during the Fiddler's Rally. When you stand at the harbor's edge at dusk, the sky alive with layered blue and pink, lights winking on along the waterfront, you understand why centuries of travelers have chosen not just to pass through Mull, but to stay and be one with the island, even if only for a moment. The Glenfinnan Viaduct and Monument. The stone curves of the Glenfinnan Viaduct sweep across the valley, a monument to late Victorian ambition and engineering cunning in the heart of the West Highlands. Completed in 1901, the viaduct's graceful arches, 21 in all, soar over the River Finnan, framing a landscape of lochs, forests, and the towering mass of Ben Nevis beyond. For many, its silhouette is forever linked with the Hogwarts Express puffing into cinematic legend. This was the depicted train route for Harry and his friends on their way to school. But Glenfinnan's importance goes even deeper into Scottish history. Just below the viaduct stands the Glenfinnan Monument, a solemn column raised in 1815 to honor the Highlanders who rallied here in 1745 behind Bonnie Prince Charlie at the start of the last Jacobite Rising. The lone kilted figure atop the column stares down the length of Loch Shiel, where wild waters and mountain air hold echoes of hope, defeat, loyalty, and romance. Photogenic in all weather, the view shifts with the seasons. Autumn turns the hillside a patchwork of gold and russet, while spring brings banks of bluebells and hawthorn bloom. The visitor center, rich with Jacobite lore and local crafts, is a good place to linger with a mug of tea, watching the landscape in slow transition. Many take the gentle walk down to Loch Shiel's shore for a perspective both wide and intimate. Watch the viaduct soar in one direction, the monument proud in the other, loch and mountain reaching to the horizon. As dusk falls and the last train shimmers over the arches, Glenfinnan feels like a place of magic and wonder, where Scotland's history and natural beauty meet beneath the awesome Highland sky. Pitlochry and the Queen's View. Beneath wooded hills and the sweep of the River Tummel, Pitlochry has long been a gateway town to Scotland's Central Highlands. Popularized in the Victorian era with the coming of the railway, it remains a handsome, bustling spot. Not far from the town centre, along a winding road through thick birch forest, you arrive at the Queen's View. Legends say Queen Victoria stood here in the 1860s, declaring the panorama fit for a queen. However, older stories suggest the lookout was named for Isabella, the wife of Robert the Bruce, who passed this way centuries earlier. Whatever its royal lineage, the view is sublime. Loch Tummel, tranquil and endless, with the mighty sweep of Eilean Mountain riding the horizon. The scene is a masterclass in Scottish color. In spring, the woods glow with wild garlic and bluebells. By midsummer, foxgloves and heather compete beside the trails. Autumn brings a tapestry of gold, scarlet, and green. Take a seat on the overlook's bench as the loch reflects passing clouds and sunlight glimmers on far-off water. May brings performances and outdoor shows to Pitlochry, starting with a theater built beside the River Tummel. Year after year, summer means musicals in the main auditorium, comedies and new plays, plus adaptations like Grease and Sunshine on Leith. That's 9 productions, each on a rotating schedule so ticket holders can fit in more than one show a day. Food and drink stalls are set up for festival weeks, along with temporary art galleries and local vendors selling crafts. What began as a tent theater in 1951 is now a regional event where people plan group outings and meet friends, sometimes catching music in the amphitheater or local pubs. Visitors are drawn in for the busy schedule, the variety and the odd mix of nature and stage. Down at the river's edge, a salmon ladder built into the dam allows you to watch silvery fish leaping upstream, a living reminder of the endurance and persistence that infuses these highlands. As sunset burns across the loch and the hills slip from green to indigo, Queen's View reminds you there are places whose beauty envelops you and whose stories echo long after the trip home. Holyrood Palace. At the foot of the Royal Mile, where the old city opens toward Arthur's Seat, stands the Palace of Holyrood House, a working royal residence and the ceremonial heart of Scotland for centuries. Founded originally as an Augustinian abbey in the 12th century, the palace has witnessed drama both public and private. Coronations and state visits, intrigues and exiles, the echoing footfalls of Mary, Queen of Scots, whose apartments remain open to visitors today. Approach Holyrood and its quadrangle reveals a blend of Renaissance elegance and Scottish baronial solidity. Gray sandstone walls, turrets, broad windows that catch the morning sun. Inside, the rooms are trim with tapestries, oil portraits, and fine antiques. In the Great Gallery, the faces of Scotland's monarchs look down, a reminder of centuries of rivalry and tradition. For many, the highlight is the Abbey ruins, Gothic arches wrapped in ivy, where generations of royals prayed and plotted. Beyond the palace, views sweep toward Arthur's Seat, the city's wild hill, and the formal gardens, a riot of roses in summer, snowdrops and crocuses in early spring. Peacocks sometimes strut along the lawns, their plumes bright against the clipped green. On royal occasions, flags snap from turrets, and crowds gather along the avenue, eager for a glimpse of ceremony done in Scottish style. Holyrood is still unmistakably regal and open to all with a curious heart and an eye for the pageantry of history. Edinburgh Royal Botanic Garden. Just north of the city's hum, the Edinburgh Royal Botanic Garden stretches across 70 acres, a world of green hiding in plain sight. Established in 1670 and moved to its current location 2 centuries later, it is one of the oldest and most celebrated botanic gardens on Earth. Home to more than 13,000 plant species, collected from every corner of the globe. Enter through wrought iron gates and the city falls away. Wide lawns, beds brimming with flowers, and rare trees from China, Japan, and the Americas create spaces of calm and wonder. In spring, the rhododendron collection bleeds color, and cherry blossoms drift like snow. The great Victorian glass houses, ironwork, glass, and Victorian ingenuity hold lush forests of palm, orchid, and fern, Misted and warm even on the grayest days. Stroll through the rock garden, and you'll pass miniature landscapes, alpine drifts, trickling streams, a riot of color from tiny saxifrages and heathers. Summer brings bees in clouds, butterflies flickering from bloom to bloom, and families picnicking in shady groves. Throughout the year, the gardens host open-air concerts, outdoor cinema, and science festivals, all a feast for lens and eye. The Botanic Garden, with incredible views of Edinburgh Castle and the distant Pentlands beyond, remains a sanctuary of verdant beauty within Scotland's capital. Wild and windswept, but loved and cultivated as well. The Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Each August, Edinburgh becomes something else. A riot of color, sound, and spectacle as the world's largest arts festival takes over the city's every corner, from grand theaters and historic halls to streets, pubs, cafes, and even small living rooms. The Edinburgh Fringe Festival, founded in 1947, now draws thousands of performers and millions of visitors every year. It transforms the quiet Georgian streets and medieval closes entirely into an unending carnival of creativity. Walk down the Royal Mile, and you'll see jugglers, comedians, dancers, musicians, performers from every discipline imaginable, hustling, laughing, gathering crowds in a city delighted to reinvent itself for a few wild weeks. Art spills from doorways, posters wallpaper every railing and wall. Pop-up venues spring up in church basements, under bridges, within tents in Princes Street gardens. Every style, accent, and genre is welcome. Enjoy bold new plays, acrobatic troupes, cabaret, impromptu concerts, and spoken word nights that run until dawn. The energy is palpable. Quaint cafes, food trucks, and impromptu ceilidhs fill squares and courtyards. Festival-branded umbrellas dot the crowds, and the city seems to glow with possibility, laughter, and the joy that comes from creative chance. It's quite the spectacle. To experience the Fringe is to wrap yourself in a blanket of pure creative bliss. Walk among a city transformed, playful, challenging, open, 1,000 shows and infinite stories waiting around every corner. It's the kind of month you wish you could bottle, and the reason so many fall in love with Edinburgh over and over every single year. Edinburgh Castle. Crowning the volcanic crag at the top of the Royal Mile, Edinburgh Castle is at once fortress, palace, and symbol, its walls layered with 10 centuries of triumph and siege, celebration and sorrow. The oldest part, St. Margaret's Chapel, dates to the early 12th century. A quiet Romanesque survivor amid the mighty batteries and towering ramparts that look out across the city and the Firth of Forth beyond. Through its gates, you walk into the heart of Scottish history. Ancient kings, regiments, and rebels have all shaped the story here. Peer into the Crown Room to see Scotland's crown jewels, or stand on the wide half-moon battery as the 1 o'clock gun booms out. The Great Hall, with its hammerbeam roof and armor displays, impresses with grandeur, while dungeons whisper of prisoners and plots. Every stone recalls memories of sieges by the English, of the Lang Siege of the 16th century, and of the daring recapture by stealth during the Jacobite risings. Modern day brings its own pageantry. Edinburgh's military tattoo, held each August, fills the esplanade with bands, dancers, and specters of flame and light, viewable worldwide and unforgettable in person. Step to the battlements and look out over the full sweep of Edinburgh. Red rooftops, narrow closes, distant green hills. This is the city's anchor and high watch point, a place where history feels both heavy and alive. Let the city draw your gaze and be one with its history. The view from up here is as old as the stones beneath your feet, and yet littered with a world anew. The New Town. Step down from Castle Hill and cross Princes Street, and you enter the New Town, an urban landscape so harmonious and grand it earned UNESCO recognition in 1995. The new town was built mostly between 1767 and 1850 as an answer to cramped old town conditions. And its strict grid pattern and tall Georgian buildings created a sense of space that stuck around. From Calton Hill, look down and you'll see the careful order of crescents, the emerald patchwork of gardens, the sweep to the Firth of Forth. Long, symmetrical avenues, elegant crescents, and sweeping squares frame some of Scotland's most beautiful urban vistas. Walk down George Street on a summer morning and the sandstone facades glow honey gold in the sun. Imposing columns and wrought iron lampposts line the squares, their gardens perfumed with roses, lilacs, and, in May, a flurry of cherry blossoms. The streets of Newtown stay busy with events most months. St. Andrew's Square is known for food festivals filling the town gardens with market stalls. Book festivals set up tents and bring publishers alongside local authors for readings and signings. Jazz trios sometimes play outdoors in summer, and arts fairs are announced for weekends, mixing pop-up galleries with small studios. The new town is a statement of what could be achieved when vision meets ambition, a living, breathing testament to a city that has always prized looking forward to its next chapter. Arthur's Seat and Salisbury Crags. At the edge of Edinburgh, where cobbled streets give way to heather and wind, Arthur's Seat rises, a sleeping volcano, ancient and easy to reach, holding a city's worth of dreams beneath its wild crest. Formed more than 300 million years ago, this rugged hill is both the highest point in Holyrood Park and the beating heart of Edinburgh's restless skyline, competing for attention with the castle itself. Start your climb from any side and the city drops away quickly, replaced by the scent of crushed grass, gorse, and earth. In spring, thrift and wild primrose paint the paths with color. By summer, the slopes thrum with bees and hikers. Halfway up, glance back and you'll see all of Edinburgh laid out. The castle clipped sharp against the sky, spires staking claim to history, and the Firth of Forth catching the sun beyond the rooftops. From the summit, the view expands in every direction. Royal Mile winding away, lowland hills rolling north, the North Sea brooding at the horizon. Locals and visitors alike come for sunrise and sunset, for solitude or the simple joy of being above it all. Some say Arthur's Seat was named for ancient kings, though its secret is the same as any great hill. The peace at the top, the wind in your face, and the promise of an amazing, awe-inspiring view. Scotland's story is waiting. Every view, every legend, every welcome. Stay curious. The next adventure might be just across the next emerald-colored hill.